Okay. Good morning, students, and I welcome you back to this second part of the lecture on To the Lighthouse. In our last lecture, we discussed about Virginia Woolf's biography and how she was depressed after the death of her mother. Today, we'll be starting from that particular juncture where I did tell you that Ulf was trying to come to terms with the death of her mother. She had a very demanding father, and I also told you the name of her father was Leslie Stephen. So, after the death of her mother and the oppression of her demanding father, we find that her relationship with her father was not quite good. She had a very strained relationship with her father. And we come to a conclusion to this particular fact from a quote from her diary. And I have written that particular quote in my slide too. You can see that clearly. And I read it. Father's birthday. He would have been 1832. 96, yes, 96 today. And could have been 96, like other people has known, but mercifully was not. His life would have entirely ended mine. What would have happened? No writing, no books, inconceivable. Now, this is a quote that has been taken from Ulf's diary, and this quote is regarding her father. From the very quote, it becomes clear that Ulf did not share a very good relationship with her father. In fact, she uses the word mercifully. The death of her father is a kind of mercy to her, because if her father would have been alive, she could not have written. She could not have written any books, and it would have been inconceivable. So the quotation implies that the death of their parents gave birth to the writer within Ulf. Okay, so moving on to the next slide. To the Lighthouse is considered by many to be a personal novel, and there is a reason behind it. We will come to that later on. The novel raises one of the general questions. How could you write marriage? If you go through the novel, you will find this is one of the pertinent questions underlying the text. How could you write marriage? The second question that the novel raises is, can you know your parents? Now, this is one of the questions that underlines this novel, To the Lighthouse. Because children, even when they grow up, are always children to their parents, and their parents will always be their parents. Can we know our parents is the question. And this is what the novel tries to seek, the novel tries to search. Uh, in fact, even when we grow mature and our parents to grow old, weak, infirm, and die, could we tell their story? Do we know them so very well that we can tell their story? Have we taken their measure? Do we know them as a person? We know them as a guardian, as one who has been protecting us from all evils and everything. But do we really know them inside out? Now, this is a kind of problem that life meets out to all of us. It is a kind of a generational handicap that we remain children, and therefore, in a sense, we are locked out of what could have been the actual lives of our parents. But we were blindfolded, in fact, blinded. We have seen our parents only as our guardian. We haven't seen them as complete human being, because they are our parents. They guided us through everything. Okay, this novel is actually an attempt to answer these questions, whether we can really come to an understanding of our parents as human beings. So, this is a remarkable novel, To a Lighthouse, because it tries to access that and to create that experience, that human being that lies behind the name of Guardian. What most readers see in this particular novel, this particular book, is the portrait of a mother. In fact, the novel is divided into three parts. If you go through it properly, you will find that the novel is divided into three parts. The first part is the window. We are dealing with the window because you will find a particular mother, the portrait of a mother. The name of that particular mother is Mrs. Ramsay. And you find this particular mother in the first part of the novel that goes by the name of Window. Okay, so most readers see in this particular book the portrait of the mother, Mrs. Ramsay. Now, Mrs. Ramsay is a mother of 8 children. Okay, and Virginia Woolf had a sister by the name of Vanessa Bell. When Vanessa Bell, she was a very famous painter, by the way, Vanessa Bell. When Vanessa Bell read this particular draft of To the Lighthouse, she was pleasantly surprised by the text. And after reading the novel, she said that the portrait of the mother that Woolf has actually drawn into the lighthouse, I'm talking of Mrs. Ramsay, the portrait of the mother in the novel, Mrs. Ramsay, is more like her. To quote Vanessa Bell, is more like her. The her that is referred to here is the mother of Virginia Woolf and Vanessa Bell. That means Mrs. Ramsay's character has been drawn from Virginia Woolf's own mother. Okay, and herein lies the similarity between Mrs. Ramsay and the mother of Virginia Woolf and Vanessa Bell. And this is the reason why Vanessa Bell was pleasantly surprised, and she says that the portrait of the mother is more like her, her means their mother, to me than anything I could ever have conceived possible. It is almost painful to have her so raised from the dead because their mother died quite early. So Vanessa Bell says that it is almost painful to have her so raised from the dead. It appeared as if mother has come back to life. It was like meeting her again with oneself grown up and on equal terms. And it seems to me the most astonishing feat of creation to have been able to see her such a way. So, this is the reason why, if you remember, I told you that many critics say that this novel is a personal novel. So, personal novel in a sense that the character of Mrs. Ramsay bears similarities with the characteristics of Wolf's and Vanessa Bell's mother. Okay? Okay. Now, talking of Mrs. Ramsay, because in the very first part of the novel, which is entitled Window, deals with Mrs. Ramsay and her preparation for the dinner that is round the corner. Mrs. Ramsay is a beautiful lady. In fact, everyone who has seen Mrs. Ramsay is struck by her beauty. So, Mrs. Ramsay's beauty struck everyone who knew her, even people who wanted to avoid her were nonetheless struck or moved by Mrs. Ramsay's beauty and her presence and her magic. Mr. Ramsay, the husband of Mrs. Ramsay, Mr. Ramsay had a friend by the name of William Banker. William Banks, it would be William Banks, Bankes, pardon me for the spelling error here, Bankes, it will be William Banks. So the name of the friend is William Banks, who was a scientist and a very level-headed man. Even a man like William Banks, who was a scientist and a very level-headed man, was stunned by Mrs. Ramsay's beauty. And he compares Mrs. Ramsay to a Greek goddess. In fact, by the end of the part 1 of this particular novel, The Window, To the Lighthouse, the name of the first part is The Window. By the end of the first part, we find that William Banks finds it very strange. At one point in the novel, he is talking to Mrs. Ramsay over phone about which subway to take and when to get out of the tube. Now, tube in Britain is the metro rail that we have in India. Okay, so he finds it very strange that he was talking to someone whom he compares to a Greek goddess, and he was talking about what? He was talking about which subway to take and when to get out of the tube. Okay, so this was a kind of a interesting conversation, because a person who is like a Greek goddess was talking about subways and tubes. Okay, talking about things on this artificial things on this particular earth. So he too was stunned by Mrs. Ramsay's beauty and remembers thinking of her as a Greek goddess, and it was strange to him that at one point he was talking to her over phone about which subway to take and when to get out of the tube, and at the same time thinking, how is it possible that he was talking to this woman who was like a Greek goddess? Okay, and this was strange for him. Mrs. Ramsay has in her beauty a kind of a quivering quality. Now, what do you mean by the word quivering? Let us move forward with the line. The word quivering here implies, in fact, Banks was attracted by this particular quality of Mrs. Ramsay. By quivering, we mean a kind of radiance that Mrs. Ramsay had, a kind of grace, a kind of life that she had, a kind of creative energy that she possessed. So Mrs. Ramsay has in her beauty a kind of quivering quality, which is what Banks is. And pardon me, this is the correct spelling of Banks, William Banks, Bankes. Okay, so Banks is struck by a kind of radiance, a kind of grace, a kind of life, a kind of creative energy. In fact, all the characters in the novel To the Lighthouse are actually drawn to her. Okay. Now the story takes place. Takes place at the summer house of Mr. Ramsay, at the Isle of Skye. Okay, at the Isle means an island of Skye. The spelling again is incorrect here. The spelling would be Skye. The L shouldn't be there. Okay, it's a typing error, so pardon me for that. It's the Isle of Skye, Skye. Okay, so the story takes place when the story begins. The first part, window, begins at the summer house of Mr. Ramsay at the Isle of Skye. Ramsay has invited many guests today who are coming in for dinner. Okay, as I told you that Mrs. Ramsay was actually preparing for a dinner. Now, who is Mr. Ramsay? Mr. Ramsay is the husband of Mrs. Ramsay, as I told you earlier. He is also the professor of philosophy with abundance of philosophical ideas and attitudes. He has also invited one of his graduate students. The name of one of his graduate students is Charles Tansley. Now, this particular student, Charles, is a very mean-spirited guy, a very insecure guy, a very awkward young man. Okay, this is the first impression that everyone has of Charles Tansley. He has a very stunted growth. Now, what do you mean by the term stunted? Stunted here means he hasn't developed as he should have. Okay, because he didn't get those opportunities to develop. So Charles Tansley was invited to this party, and he is a very mean-spirited, insecure, awkward young man, a silly man. In fact, the children of Ramses actually mocked him. They laughed at him, okay, because he was very silly and awkward. As I told you, Charles is a stunted figure who hasn't developed as he should have. So one day one morning he is invited to accompany Mrs. Ramsay on an errand. Now you need to remember that Mrs. Ramsay is one of those women who goes for daily walks. She has lots of works. She visits people who are sick. She brings them comfort. She brings them peace and solace, and she also brings them gifts. So such is the kind of lady this Ramsay is, Mrs. Ramsay is, okay? And she is a portrait of Virginia Woolf's own mother. So one fine morning, Charles is invited to accompany Mrs. Ramsay on an errand. What is that work? What is that errand? Mrs. Ramsay is going to visit a sick woman. So Charles is actually accompanying Mrs. Ramsay on that particular errand. Now, Mrs. Ramsay has this exquisite touch for people. She initially, Mrs. Ramsay thought of Charles as a silly young man. In fact, each and every person who first saw Charles thought of him as a silly young man, awkward, insecure, stunted. But later on, Mrs. Ramsay realizes that he is kind of stunted because he hasn't got those opportunities that her children have got. Okay, so see that Mrs. Ramsay is the only person who sees Charles as who understands Charles, who sees Charles's development, stunted development as who sees Charles's stunted development as the lack of opportunities that he have actually got. Okay. Now Mrs. Ramsay comes to know through her conversation with Charles that he has never been to a circus. She explains to Charles about circus. She tries to tell him about circus, and she thinks that she will tell her children not to tease Charles. As I told you initially, that the children of Ramses also teased Charles. So she thought that she will tell her children not to tease Charles because the poor boy was never taken to the circus. As Mrs. Ramsay comes out of the house after visiting the sick woman, what was the purpose of Mrs. Ramsay going to that particular errand or that walk? Because she wanted to visit that sick woman, and Charles was actually accompanying her. So after completing her work, after visiting the sick woman, when she came out of the house, Charles Tansley was actually sitting outside. He didn't go inside. So when Mrs. Ramsay comes out of the house, Charles Tansley looks at her and has the realization that he has never seen anybody more beautiful than her. He takes her purse and they walk together. Okay, so even Charles Tansley, who is quite younger than Mrs. Ramsay, has this realization that he has not seen anybody more beautiful than her. Now, Mrs. Ramsay's age, usually we don't actually talk about girls or a woman's age, but since this is a novel and we need to analyze it, Mrs. Ramsay is in her 50s, and this is what Charles thinks of her. And now we come to what Charles thinks of Mrs. Ramsay. This is one of his thoughts, Charles's thoughts. What does Charles think? And I quote from the text itself. With stars in her eyes and veils in her hair, with cyclamen and wild violets. What nonsense was he thinking? She was 50 at least. She had 8 children, stepping through the fields of flowers and taking to her breast buds that had broken and lambs that had fallen, with the stars in her eyes and the wind in her hair. He took her back. Now this is the thought of Charles Tansley. Okay, she was at least 50. Now we get additional information from these thoughts actually, that Mrs. Ramsay was around 50. She had 8 children. Okay, so these lines depict Woolf's lyricism, almost classical pastoral evocation of Mrs. Ramsay. In fact, in our earlier slides, we were talking of circus. Mrs. Ramsay, when she comes to know that Charles has never been to a circus, she starts explaining to him. It sounds funny how small little things are of great importance in a novel like To the Lighthouse, because it is a stream of consciousness novel where our daily routine, which does not have that amount, or other writers before Woolf or James Joyce haven't concentrated so much on investing beauty to our daily routine. And this is what Woolf and Joyce actually do in with the stream of consciousness technique. They actually invest beauty in each and everything that we do in our day-to-day life. Okay, and these lines that Charles actually thinks here about Mrs. Ramsay, these lines depict Woolf's lyricism and almost classical pastoral evocation. We all are quite aware of the word called pastoral, okay, classical pastoral evocation. And it goes to show that Mrs. Ramsay has earlier been compared to a Greek goddess. So classical, and that is what classical here implies. Pastoral means grassy, shepherds, lambs, and we have a reference to that too, flowers and buds and lambs, evocation of Mrs. Ramsay. So what Ulf is doing is making lyricism possible in a realistic framework. Okay. Now Ulf is trying to show us through her language and writing something of the splendor of the world that lives in our exalted feelings. When this young man Charles, insecure, stunted, all of a sudden realizes that this radiant woman, of which he had the great opportunity to accompany her on her errands, and so he takes her bag while coming back home. The question naturally arises: what is the big deal? What is the big deal if Charles takes her bag while coming back home? What is the big deal if Charles takes her purse while coming back home? Okay, Ulf gives an answer to this also. This is very important. As I told you, each and every event in our life becomes important in stream of consciousness novels. Ulf gives us a sneak into this also. It's a great moment of Charles' day. It's his encounter with beauty. For the first time, Charles encounters beauty when he sees Mrs. Ramsay. His encounter with grace. And this is how Ulf rewrites our daily routines and invests them with a kind of exquisite beauty, something new that even camera could possibly not capture. And this is what I was trying to say, that our daily routines, the things that we do in our day-to-day life, are actually invested with a kind of exquisite beauty. The things that we even don't consider to be important are very important in stream of consciousness technique. And this is the reason why Charles takes her bag, and taking her bag becomes very important. This might be a small event for all of us, but for Charles, it was a day of realization. It was his encounter with beauty. It was his encounter with grace. Okay? And this is how Ulf rewrites our daily routines. So Mrs. Ramsay is the novels, we can call Mrs. Ramsay the novel's love apostle. She's a cheerleader of marriage. Now, Mrs. Ramsay is of the belief that women should marry. There is this character called Lily Briscoe whom she actually persuades to marry. Okay, so we can say that she is a cheerleader of marriage. In fact, you know what cheerleader means. IPL is round the corner. We are having IPL matches every day, so we know what cheerleader is. So she has also a much more severe picture of life, but she is not at all a giddy person as some might think her to be. She is a connoisseur of chaos in this sense. For Mrs. Ramsay, marriage is the ultimate end of a woman. Okay, now this line sounds ambiguous, but the meaning that I wanted to inculcate here was Mrs. Ramsay, according to Mrs. Ramsay, marriage is the ultimate destination of a woman. Okay, there shouldn't be any ambiguity, because the other meaning could have been of this particular sentence that I have constructed is after marriage everything ends for a woman. That is not what I mean, so kindly pardon me for that. For Mrs. Ramsay's marriage, for Mrs. Ramsay, marriage is the ultimate end of a woman. Okay, so marrying is very important according to Mrs. Ramsay. Now she is unlike her husband. Her husband is a philosopher, has gone through lots of books and this and that. He has his own views of life. But Mrs. Ramsay too, though she is unlike her husband, she has an intuitive sense that nature is brittle, the world is inhospitable to us, that her children will never be as happy and spontaneous as they are at this moment of life. Life, she says, is, and I quote from the text itself, life is terrible, hostile, and quick to pounce on you if you give it a chance. So Mrs. Ramsay, as we discussed earlier, is a love apostle, is magnetically beautiful. Everyone is attracted towards her. At the same time, absolutely lucid, unflinchingly clear-eyed figure of the book, who sees the unfair contrast between us and the forces of life and fate. So, with this, we come to the end of Mrs. Ramsay's character. In our next class, we'll be dealing with Mr. Ramsay. I hope this lecture provides you ample information about the characteristic or the features of Mrs. Ramsay. And the section that we were dealing with was windows. Okay, so in our next class, we'll be dealing with the second part as well as Mr. Ramsay's character. With this, we end this lecture. Have a nice day. Thank you. Goodbye.